Alright, what's up guys? Fallen Winter here, and we are doing a deck profile today of my favorite card and deck ever, Witches for OTT, Oracle Think Tank. So this deck is pretty much the Soulless build, but just with the new support. I haven't changed too much from the rest of the deck, but I did throw in a few extra cards, and this deck has a lot more plays than it used to, so I'll try to go more into the combos and stuff specifically. So we start off with Lulu, our starter, in zeros. Still a really good starter for this deck. When you ride to grade 3, you call her out of Soul, probably behind Vanguard in most cases. Soul Blast 2 cards from your Soul and draw a card. So on a Coco ride, if you get the full skills off, you Counterblast 2 and Soul Blast 2 with her ability, and you draw 3 cards. That's just the beginning of the combo now. That used to be it, but now she is all over the plays. It's fantastic. For the trigger lineup, 8 vanilla crits, because there's not too much else you can really run in this deck. And we don't need draws because we do more than enough drawing, so we run 12 crit with the 4 Psychic Birds. You don't really need this because half the time if you Soul Charge a Psychic Bird, you're losing the plus 3000 on Coco, but there's a few times where I didn't need that, and I just needed to stride and try to dig for other cards, and these were just stuck in my hand instead of boosters or rear guards, so sometimes I just needed to just put that into Soul and try to dig for the units I needed, and they actually came in handy. Then we run the 4 heal triggers. Lozenge Magus, Circle Magus. You can run the vanilla ones just to make sure you have 5k boosters that'll stay there. But I kind of like these just in case I have excess hand that I know I'm not going to need, and I want to try healing. Or I need to try putting cards back into my deck because I'm decking out. Which hasn't happened recently, but it happened enough in the past with other OTT decks that I wanted to be sure. For the grade 1 lineup, I run 4 Chocolat. This deck does not counterblast anywhere near enough to warrant the unflip from the new G Perfect Guards. You can try running that one, but this just helps in so many situations. Tom in this deck is very important, so this allows you to guard him without having to drop tons of cards in case they swing at it. And it protects you from Dimension Police plays if they swing at your rear guards or the cross, so you can prevent yourself from having to deal with restands. Then we run 3 of the Ameno Murakumo, which is just your stride fodder. Really just important in the deck because you don't want to be striding with your grade 3s in this one all the time. You can do so without too many problems, but it has come in handy where I needed to stride using this and then discard the witch grade 3s for my skill, so that's another thing. 4 8k vanillas because Toms are 8ks and this allows you to hit 16. Pretty basic, and they did help out making like 19 or 18 kind of columns against certain matchups or situations, so higher numbers help. And lastly, the 3 SP Lalas. You don't need to run her, and I know people who don't like using Lala, but having the extra chance to discard things that aren't your grade 3s comes in handy, just because sometimes you have to stride using the grade 3 witches, and then you have to just get rid of these. Usually you're not calling them as boosters. I have never called them out yet, and I just hold them in hand when I need them because you usually have more than enough hand to not have these to guard with. But it can definitely come in handy if you need something or you're trying to dig for better units or something. Alright, and then for the grade 2 lineup, we are running 3 Tart. This is just useful in the random matchups where they try to play a grade lock game against us, or we need to try playing a grade lock game against people. I've never run into that situation yet because usually it's better to just go straight into grade 3 and just plus as much as physically possible. But in the small chance that it does, it could come in handy. And it does keep them from rushing too hard. So you only want 2 to 3 damage max in most situations, so this helps prevent that. Then we have the G12K attackers. There's not just too many other cards you want to run. You can try running the Amber clones where you counterblast 1 to draw a card when you're boosted, but 12Ks are just nice since you don't have to commit to your field as much. There's been a lot of turns where I try striding into like a Medu first turn, just drop one of these, and you have a instant 12K attack without committing to your field at all, so you can keep your hand. And then, of course, the 4 Toms, because Tom is a really good card or something, and is almost staple in every deck, which has won me many games, just because it forced a lot of awkward guards out of people, or perfect guards. And then, for the grade 3s, we've got the 4 Cocos, because she is just a ridiculous plus engine that does not require striding or legion or any of those things. So if you're playing against a Ropo matchup or stuff like that, you don't care anymore because you just ride this, get 3 cards, and then you can still just try to plus off of your other skills without ever striding at all. And you just make columns and keep your hand ahead of theirs. And then the new unit, Cuckoo, which is a fantastic new card. What she does is when she's placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, if you have a Witch Vanguard, you can counterblast 1 if you have 1 or less cards in Soul, and draw 2 cards and discard 1 card from your hand. This means this just means you have an 11k in your deck now, because having a 10k sometimes isn't the most ideal thing against certain matchups. And it means you have a backup that still allows you to plus at least 1 in the case that you don't hit the Coco. Also, being able to call these to Rearguard is fantastic and lets you make plays, which I'll go over in a moment. For the Stride Zone, I run 2 Medus because this is one of the best first Stride plays if you can make it. If you can ride into a Coco, you can counterblast 2, Soul Blast 2 off of the Lulu and draw 3. Stride into this by discarding a MiMi, or a Coco, or Cuckoo, or Coco. Get those cards back, and then you can then call them out. So if it's a Cuckoo that you showed with, you get it back to your hand, and then you call it, and then you counterblast if you have the 3 counterblasts open, and you just plus ridiculously because you added the 3 back to hand using this, and you also drew or plus 1 off of the Cuckoo on Rearguard, on top of the plus 3 from riding. It's really ridiculous how much hand advantage you can get just from your first stride using those 2 cards. I run 2 just because I kind of want to be safe, and I use 1 as a G-Sys fodder if you really need to. Next, I run a part of the basic OTT stride engine. I run 1 Keating, just if I have nothing better. If I'm on a 11k, I can't use a Meduse. This is my first go-to stride. And then we have the 2 Takamikazuchis, because counterblasting 2, which you don't use, to get 2 cards to your hand is a nice way to spend it. Then we have 3 of the MiMi, which is a really good card. What her ability is when she's placed on Vanguard, you can discard a Witch from your hand, which means the Lulu or the Lalas, Lulu if she's in your hand for some reason, which you probably won't. Any of your grade 3s that I run, and if you want to tech in the no stand triggers, the Witches, your opponent has to discard 2 cards from their hand. If they do not, they take a damage, and when they do, the trigger effect is nullified. So it's kind of like a Dragonoot, except you can activate this on 5 or any damage, so they can go to 6. It doesn't happen ever, but it makes it a really good card for pressure. I usually try to save this card for late game when they're at 4 or 5 damage, just because if not, it just gives them a free damage and they don't care too much about that early. But it's just really nice as an endgame pressure card. One of the best things in this deck is that G-assisting also is really fantastic. in this deck, if you G-assist at any point in time, riding into a Coco will usually plus you. It'll plus you less than you would if you didn't G-assist, but unlike most decks where they have to take a -1 by G-assisting, you will still plus even off the G-assist, which is fantastic. It has won me many games because I've been grade locked and rushed down in the same game, and G-assisting and being able to make all of the plays to stride into Madu, use Cuckoo, and just have a hand even after all of that has won me the game just because I barely held on and just managed to push for a game with toms and stuff like that and triggers. It's not the best deck at the moment just because some of the matchups aren't so great, but against some of the more meta ones like Ripples right now, it was able to out advantage them and keep them from pressuring me too much because I had the hand to guard them with, and they were losing out on hand advantage every turn technically, unless they could plus off of the turtle, so it worked in my favor. That's the whole deck and some of the combos and stuff you can run with it. If you have questions or comments and stuff like that, let us know, and we'll see you in the next video.